Here's 5 old school exercises I think you should try for muscle growth. Now, don't get me wrong, the basics always come first. Lengthen partials,
52 sets,
and lengthen partials again. But joking aside, as most of you out there know, training hard and consistently is what will get you to be jacked, not whether you did exercise A or exercise B, although terms and conditions apply for those that want to absolutely maximize gains. However, these following exercises are really cool, not as widely used, at least based on my anecdotal experience being in the trenches in gyms for many years now, and I think you could add them to your training arsenal, and I think you could add them to your training toolkit to make training more fun and potentially a bit more effective. Keep in mind, these are not supposed to be the exercises that will take you from 0 to 100, but rather effective exercises that may make training more fun and thus allow you to make more gains. Starting with the first exercise, aka a pair of exercises, because they are not as rare as the other ones. The incline dumbbell fly and the dumbbell pullover. The incline dumbbell fly is an excellent exercise for you to isolate your chest. It doesn't require much equipment, and in most gyms, even those that are not equipped with the latest equipment, will cover you. All you need is a bench, a couple of dumbbells, set your bench to an incline that feels comfortable, grab a couple of dumbbells, and while keeping your elbows relatively straight, yet a nice stretch. The dumbbell fly is an excellent exercise for your chest. It will place a lot of tension in that stretch position, and the incline will allow for an even greater stretch than the flat bench version of this. The dumbbell pullover, although somewhat controversial in our niche, is an exercise that can be a great alternative for your lats if you don't have a lat pull down machine available, but complementary to your lat pull down training as well. It's an exercise that was used quite a bit back in the day, both as a lat but also as a chest exercise with some modifications. Now, some may have argued that, oh, there's not enough leverage for your lats and they won't do the work, yada, yada, yada. We need a lot more research to be able to say that conclusively. As a potential back exercise, it can be quite fun. Again, really time efficient, not much equipment needed, and a lot of tension at the stretch. Just do it, take a set to failure, and then you can tell me if you feel your lats working or not. Next up, we have the JM press, named after J.M. Blakely, who was a world record bencher back in the day, has been on Elite FTS, which I've been on as well. We're practically brothers, really cool beard, and overall he's put out a lot of content on strength training. Coming from a strength training background, the JM press is an exercise that I was familiar with arguably since the beginning of my lifting career. For those of you out there who didn't grow up in powerlifting and strength training, the JM press can be an excellent addition to your overall training program as a tricep builder. You essentially want to lay on a bench, grab a barbell, have your arms perpendicular to your torso, and as you're coming down, keeping your elbows tucked very close to your body, essentially bringing the bar close to your face. It's a weird exercise to get used to the very first time you do it, but once you get the hang of it, the tricep pump and the connection with your triceps, citation pending, yes, I know, is excellent. I think you will really enjoy this one, and you can bang it out after your bench press sets without needing any more equipment. Overall, really cool exercise for the triceps. I urge you to give it a go. Next up, we have a variation of the bent over dumbbell row, the croc row. The main difference between your standard dumbbell row and the croc row is that on the croc row, you are supposed to have a bench set at a slight incline, and while holding on that incline, allowing for a great stretch on your lats and essentially lifting some heavy ass weight. Popularized by a famous powerlifter named Croc, croc row is an excellent choice because it's one, pretty effective, top stretch, you get a really deep stretch. All you need is a dumbbell, but the most important reason, at least in my opinion, why you should try it, it can be very fun. You can use a shit ton of weight. People back in the day even went to the extent of making their own dumbbells to do this exercise because they could lift so much weight. And yes, that may not be as time efficient as being able to use lighter loads, but it can be a ton of fun. You can use a bit of external momentum, as we've seen with the latest study from the Applied Muscle Development Lab. A bit of momentum is likely not going to have any significant effect on your gains, and you can enjoy a top stretch, bang out some partials at the end, have some fun, and get a top stimulus. But the fatigue from the momentum. Man up! This is not that channel. Relax, lift the weight up and down, you're fine. You're okay. The fatigue monster is not getting you. Or woman up. Sorry guys, I have like 99% of men watching me. For the one lady who's out there, or the two ladies, I apologize. We grew up under strong women, so I can say it, whatever. My mom, not tattooed on me. My sister though, shout out my sister. Next up, we have a chest builder supreme, the wide grip guillotine press. The name of the exercise is that because of the way you are lifting the bar close to your neck, as if it was a guillotine. Back in the day, there was a lot of nocebo, especially in our niche, around flaring your elbows on the bench press and how bad that is for your shoulders. As we've come to understand in the last few years, doing so is not necessarily going to destroy your shoulders or if there's anything wrong with it, as long as you're not actively feeling pain and discomfort. The guillotine press can be a great way for you to get an amazing stretch on your chest, really blast the pecs without involving the triceps as much, and it's also super cool and weird, and people will look at you in the gym and be like, what the hell is this loser doing? His bench press looks like shit. Where, when you spot that, you then get to approach that person and tell them, hey, it's a guillotine press. I saw it on YouTube. That guy, DRPAK, did it. Subscribe to his channel, and then everybody wins. You look like a thinking lifter. I get an extra subscriber. Happy days. But in all seriousness, set up either on a bench press or a Smith machine. Flare your elbows, nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not feeling any pain or discomfort. Bring the bar as low as you can, pause for a second, and blast it as if you would on a bench press. Give it a go. I'm sure the juicy melon pump that you will get will be worth all the years taken off from your shoulder health and eventually your early demise. The years 2013, 2012, 2013, somewhere there. Martin Berkhan and intermittent fasting is all the shit. Everybody's talking about intermittent fasting and Martin Berkhan's muscular development, although he had back genetics and he only does 4 exercises. From those 4 exercises, the one exercise that he had really popularized back in the day and a lot of strength trainees still use is the seal row. Yes, I know many of you have probably heard of it because people like Dr. Mike have also spoken about it, but the seal row, if you have access to a seal row bench, is an excellent back exercise. Total back isolation. Not much space for external momentum to be used or for other muscles to be involved or for any cheating, although that's not necessarily a horrible thing. However, you ideally need to have the seal row bench in order to not be the guy at the gym, the guy who has to set it up and put a bench on top of blocks in order to get the full range of motion. Plus, if you don't have a cumbered bar, it can be a bit awkward with just having a straight barbell banging on the bench. However, seal row, amazing stretch with a cumbered bar, more contractions as well, short muscle lengths are back, baby. You get to feel, nah, I'm joking, but with a cumbered bar, things can feel a bit nicer because you're not banging on that bench. Absolute goated S-tier exercise for your upper back and your back as a whole to an extent, some arm involvement as well. And I would recommend you give it a try if you have access to that equipment. If you don't, an alternative could be a seal row with dumbbells, where you can be the guy and get the blocks and set it up, and at least you're not making as much noise as if you had a barbell. Bonus! Loaded pretty heavy, and try to YOLO max and do sets of 1 to 5 reps to see how heavy you can go, just out of curiosity. It will feel nicer than a barbell row, because if you can't lift the weight, you simply cannot lift the weight, and you just put it down. Other than that, great alternative to any chest-supported machine row, and I would argue maybe slightly better than your traditional barbell row. But hey, what's an easier way for you to play around with exercises you've never heard before and actually have somebody coach you on these exercises and implement them in your plan according to your available gym equipment. MyoAdapt, you guessed that right. At this stage, we should be out there, launched, or at the end of closed beta. Closed beta going great. Hundreds of people currently testing the app and improving it for you, the viewer, to use at some point. MyoAdapt will select the best exercise based on the equipment that you have available, which you can change at any time, but it will also give you a shit ton of exercises, including more quirky exercises like the ones I mentioned. MyoAdapt.com, go check it out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Lastly, lift heavy, as the t-shirt says. That was the theme of this video to an extent. Some of these exercises are simply cool because they allow you to just go YOLO and lift a bit heavier, but Rascal Apparel, DRPAK, for 10% off, get yourself some. 5 cool exercises that I think you should try. Old school, no school, like the old school. Now the old school is the new school. Back in the day when I was starting, it's weird. They're cool exercises. Give them a go. See you guys